Hello all. Today's passage is Isaiah 50, 4 to 9. And the author here talks of a suffering servant, a theme that is dotted throughout the Bible. And of course, we see it in Jesus himself being described as a suffering servant. And in this section of Isaiah, there was a lot of upheaval at the time, a struggle for peace with the people of Israel. And the big question that came to my mind reading this is, who will bring peace? Will it be the God of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob? Or will we look to, and would this person look to find it in the world around them by forming alliances with other people and compromising? So here Isaiah, he talks of someone who's done their best to stay faithful to God. And early passages, verse 4 and 5, we see that he's been gifted with this ability to teach and to sustain weary people, heartbroken people, people on the verge of starvation and death and destruction. And each morning he becomes even more aware of the situation that his people live in. And he tries his best, doesn't he? Using the gifts he's been given to warn them, to teach them what it means to follow God. What it means to follow God. So he's been faithful to what God has taught him to do, but the people's response is, well, they've not listened and they've not followed, and instead they go one worse. They actually go against this spokesperson, this suffering servant, if you like. And when he tries to correct them and help the people of Israel, he is met with persecution. And it's a question that speaks into today's issues. The issue of, where do you go when things are confusing, when things are chaotic, when we are doing what God has called us to and people won't listen or we face opposition? What do we do? How do we respond? Who and where do we turn to find our peace? A quick story. A couple of years ago, mine and Jen's peace was really robbed. This must have been about 10 years ago. To cut a very long story short, Jen was accused of causing an accident. Two cars crashed into each other in a traffic jam, and we got a letter the next week, a call from the police, and a letter saying that they were saying that it was Jen's fault. She witnessed it happened. It was absolutely unfair, and we couldn't believe that she was being accused. It felt like a real attack of her person. We had to go through, get CCTV footage, mechanic reports of our car, to say that it's not been touched, it's not been damaged. It lost us a lot of sleep. And when I read this passage again, I was compelled to think, Lord, give me that kind of unwavering commitment to you. Give me the sort of confidence in you that I read about here. And the way of the suffering servant in this passage is the way of absolute commitment to God, isn't it? And to God's mission, despite what had happened and despite what might happen to him if he continues to stay committed to God. So it's a real challenge. And of course, Jesus has brought that same kind of message to us, to the world, that we can look to the world and to other places for hope and for peace and for salvation. So if you're feeling robbed or your peace is attacked for doing good, I pray that these words would be of encouragement to you to place your trust in God. And like the writer said, let's not stop doing good, but as we read right at the end, but as we read, the sovereign Lord, it's the sovereign Lord who helps us. And so in him we can keep our peace. Amen.